This is our 17th week. MashaAllah. Okay, so I'll open up the floor if anyone wants to share, and if not, we'll start reading the fourth point. As a reminder, we are studying the 29th word in the words by Imam Nursi. We are in the second aim. The 29th word focuses on angels, the immortality of spirits, and resurrection. So the second aim is about resurrection and proofs for resurrection. So go ahead if you'd like to share anything based on last week, and if not, we'll start reading.
Assalamu alaikum. So we want to use this weekly study as guidance to sit with and to digest again and again and again, with hopes to use the guidance in it to transform the way that we see and feel things happening. So Dr. Yamin has been sharing with us, the more that we are convinced of the truth that's being proposed here, and then we use this truth to go outside, look at the world, look at the happenings, then if we truly believe them, we will feel more at peace with what's happening. So it's just a reminder for myself, first and foremost, that this is not just information meant to stay as something just beneficial to read or something helpful to know, if it's not affecting my feelings and if it's not transforming the way I'm interpreting life events and then arriving in a more peaceful place, then what benefit is it? So back to the second point, we were asked to reflect on the second and the third point. Again, right now we are talking about using the universe to confirm the necessity of eternity. We already spoke on man's spirit. We continue to speak about the spirit, angels, and now there's the shift towards eternity. So if we can just go back a point on the screen, Noor. The second point spoke about wisdom being very apparent. So we go outside, or you look at the way, you're made, the little people around you are made, the way the universe is in such any specific perfection to the degree of the tilt, the way that everything is operating, the way food is magically popping out just to be delivered to us in all different colors. The second sentence, the first two sentences, divine wisdom is the representation of pre-eternal favor, which Dr. Yamina translated as inaya, care. And her summary was on that point is that every single thing, I want you to focus on the things that we struggle with, specifically world affairs that literally make us sick when we expose ourselves to it nonstop for over 100 days now. We pause with looking at the things that make our bodies sick, and we go back to study the truth of the way the universe is made. Is it possible that the way this tomato, I was washing tomatoes and they happened to have the vine on them. And as I was ripping them off the vine, I could smell them. And then I'm imagining, like, when you watch the plant, this red thing just pops out of a green thing. And you would have never imagined, if you've never seen it before, that this was going to happen. It's perfection and the wisdom and the order, that everything is in perfect place. And that universal law, yet Dr. Yamina was saying, points to inaya, or more than just pre-eternal favor, but everything is done with care. So the wisdom includes divine care that benefits. Dr. Yamina was saying the word is essential benefits in everything. So I just wanted us to pause with that, because there's a lot of things that a lot of people are struggling to make peace with right now, understandably. We are all struggling with certain things that we're constantly exposed to. So then we pause and we ask, is it possible that this divine wisdom that's bringing everything into existence is absent here? And I just sit and I pause with that question. Is it possible that this infinite wisdom and this infinite care that's literally bringing everything around me into existence, human beings are coming into existence, babies, from, it's really a miracle. Is it possible that wisdom is absent in the way things are transpiring? No, is the answer that comes to me. So there must be care and wisdom that is beyond my understanding. And we're told to be patient with that. Be patient as the wisdom unfolds, one word at a time, one page at a time, or one paragraph at a time, one sentence, one paragraph, one page. Yani, we need patience. So that's what I wanted to share about the second point, is really we should take time to pause with that, with everything that's happening now in our lives and in the world. And the third point, I was on a walk and I was reflecting on how the third point was saying that there is nothing wasted. The way the world is made, there's nothing wasted. So in general, I was thinking about that. SubhanAllah, we have the huge garbage trucks coming every day, picking up, I mean, they're hard to miss here in New York. And, there's this big shift happening universally about only wanting to use things that are biodegradable, that are good for the earth, and to stay away from things that are not biodegradable. And isn't it, general reflection was just every single thing that the creator made is biodegradable. It's only humans, this styrofoam or whatever that, was made from however they make that. But everything, all the fruits, all the vegetables, everything that we use, the peel, the seeds, everything, there's no waste in it. So then on the next page, Nursi was talking about even the human being's desires. Then look at the world. Nothing that he creates is made in waste. Norbanu, can we go to the next page? Oh, I'm sorry. You're on the next page. I'm not on the next page. Sorry. So that man's limitless, infinite hopes, ideas, and desires are not wasted either. So as I was going on a walk, just the day after our halakha last week, my heart was just so disturbed with the news of what was happening, desiring a place where people are not hurt or harmed or abducted or just. And then for a moment I paused and I watched, I just noticed, yeah, there's a thought there that wants everyone to be safe, everyone to be happy, everyone to. So that's it felt like this quote unquote, infinite hope. And this is, I think we're going to talk about this in one of the later points. So I'll just mention it very briefly here. When we wish for something and we find this wish and this desire, it was born somewhere. Where was this, this idea came from? I find it's all of a sudden sits in me and it speaks loudly, but it came from an eternal place and it flows into, like, it visits the eternal place. So that thought all of a sudden wasn't like this, oh, your wishful thinking, your hope for a happy place. Like, we all have this knowledge on a factual basis that this eternal paradise is real. But are we aware that the thought itself was born in an eternal place, represents an eternal place? And as I'm feeling it, it's flowing to that real place. So it doesn't become like this kind of just thought in my head. It's a place that's familiar because it comes from eternal happiness and it visits that place as I'm saying it. So it just helped me as I was walking to just say, this is not just a thought, this is a taste, a familiarity, a visit of the eternal world. So yani exhale of relief that we are flowing into that place every moment, like Dr. Yamina says, is like flowing water, flowing into this place. And the beautiful metaphor of water is that the water comes from somewhere and it flows back. So it just reminds me that it's coming from the eternal and it's flowing into the eternal. So I hope that resonates. It helped me.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, that this last point, Sarah, we need to stay with it, and until we know for certain that this desire is a messenger telling us, messenger from our Rabb, telling us that he cares. Otherwise, how do I know that I care about people I've never seen? It seems like if we are bound to the physical world, we have no relationship, but we are all interconnected through our common source. And that we care about others, that desires for goodness and peace for everyone is the witness within us that our Maker, our Rabb, is the one who cares for everyone. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. He's making me, as he's breathing life into me, he is giving me, making me with this want, with this desire. But when we forget and we disconnect with the source, and it seems like it is me who desires goodness, then I stand in judgment of quote unquote God, who has nothing to do with me, as if, and I say, how come I care? How about, why don't you care? And then I have doubts about, does really God care about everything and everyone? And that second stand is totally full of contradictions. So that's a point to reflect and stay with and make peace with, inshallah.
One thing that helps me with confirming that in myself is like knowing that the feeling isn't coming from me, is to see if I can just get rid of it, and I can't. So if it was truly my own compassion or mercy, and if it was totally under my own control, I think, and if it like collectively, if that's how we felt, a lot of us would just not choose to feel it because it would just seem kind of absurd or unnecessary because I'm feeling all this compassion or mercy or I want things to be better for people, but then it causes me pain. So
And
if
because we can't do anything.
right. So if I was the one who was the source of my own mercy, I would just stop it. Like if I'm the source of something, then I can say like I can turn it on or off, or I can
Well,
limit it.
I think it's not even that I would turn it on and off. If it was from me, I would not even choose to, from the beginning, why would it come to me? Why I choose something that will disturb my, seemingly my little comfort.
Right. Yeah, and I think like people might say, oh, because it's, I don't know, more humanistic or something. But if you really probe, it doesn't really make sense. Why would you feel that way? Or I mean, you can apply this to any emotion, I think. Like if I were the source of my own discomfort or anger or anything else or love, I would just choose to feel them in like the best way possible and then never be disturbed by them. Or like I would just not desire eternity because it causes me pain. So I would just not feel it, right? Because that's the rational thing to do if you're the source of it. But it's not coming from me, so it's carrying a message. And I feel like that it's such a novel way of looking at it. Yes, Dr. Yamina?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so I just like that, like the wording that the feelings I have, whether it's mercy or compassion or anger or frustration, they are also messengers and they're also carrying meaning external to me. So they're not my own. So I think that's something that we really have to stay with. Okay, if nothing else, let's start reading the fourth point, inshallah. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahümme salli ala seyyidina Muhammed ve ala ali seyyidina Muhammed. Fourth point. In each of many different things, in night and day, and winter and spring, in the skies, and even in man's personalities, and in the bodies which he changes throughout his lifetime, and in sleep, which resembles death, is a different sort of resurrection, resembling the resurrection of the dead. They all tell of, and allude to the reality of the day of resurrection. For example, the day, year, lifetime of man, and revolution of God's great clock known as the earth resemble the dials of a weekly clock of ours that tell the seconds, minutes, hours, and days, each the forerunner of the following. They give news of one another, they turn and function. Like they show morning after night and spring after winter, they intimate that after death, the morning of the resurrection will appear from that instrument, that vast clock. There are many varieties of resurrection that a person experiences during his lifetime. Just as he sees the signs of the resurrection through a sort of dying every night and rebirth every morning, so it is agreed that he undergoes what resembles a resurrection every 5 or 6 years by changing all the particles in his body, and even undergoes a gradual resurrection twice a year. Also, every spring, he witnesses more than 300,000 sorts of resurrection and rising to life in the animal and plant kingdoms. Thus, so many signs and indications and marks of resurrection most certainly point to the great resurrection of the dead, as though they were droplets of it. An all-wise maker causing a sort of resurrection in that way in the animal and plant worlds, that is, raising to life exactly the same all plant roots and certain animals in the spring, and restoring other parts of them, such as leaves, flowers, and fruits, not exactly the same but similar, may be an indication of a personal resurrection in the human individual within the general resurrection. For the human individual is like a species, in comparison with the other animate species, and the light of the mind has given such a breadth to human actions and thought that they encompass the past and the future. The light of the mind has given such a breadth to human actions and thought that they encompass the past and the future. If he consumes the world even, he is not satisfied. In the other species, the nature of the individual is particular, its value is personal, its view restricted, its qualities limited, its pleasure and pain instantaneous. Whereas man's nature is exalted, his value most high, his view universal, his qualities limitless, his immaterial pleasure and pain in part permanent. In which case, the various resurrections which are repeated in the other animate species self-evidently tell of and point to human beings being resurrected and restored to life exactly the same in the great resurrection of the dead. Since it is proved with the certainty of twice 2 equaling 4 in the 9th truth of the 10th word, we cut short the discussion here. Any questions? I feel like the first 2 paragraphs are kind of clear, or they're easier to grasp, at least on a surface level reading. And then the next 2 are a little more dense. So in the first paragraph, we talk about how we actually experience mini resurrections every day, in things like night and day, winter and spring, in the skies, and even in man's personalities and in the bodies, which he changes throughout his lifetime. So obviously none of us have the same body or character or qualities that we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So all of those changes, he's saying point to like a personal experience of resurrection. And then they all allude to the reality of the day of resurrection, which is kind of the what we're trying to get to through our own personal experience. And then he gives this example of a clock, which is a little hard to piece together.
I mean, when we look at the clock on the wall, do we need, and we want to check if is it working or not. What do we check?
If it's moving,
Yeah, but what is moving? Which needle is moving?
the second one.
Arm? The seconds, right? That's enough. We don't wait for the minutes or for the hours. We don't sit there for an hour to see it moving. We are sure that it will move. Here also, if the day and night is changing, it means centuries will pass, millennia will pass. It means there is a flow. We know there is a flow for sure.
Okay. That actually clarifies it in a different way than I realized. Okay, so we have,
And so it's the same with our sleep, like he said, every sort of going to sleep is like a dying every night and rebirth every morning. It's a mini resurrection. There is in Surah Al-Zumar, where we are told, Allahu yatawaffa al-anfusa. You can check, Zumar is Surah 39, Ayah 42. So it's basically saying that God takes the selves or the souls. Yatawaffa, you can understand that he gives death, or he takes the souls at its death, and والتي لا تموت, and those who don't die in their sleep. Could you find it? Maybe.
yeah, I'm sharing it on the screen.
Yeah, so maybe you can just.
Okay, so it's Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die, he takes during their sleep. Then he keeps those for which he has decreed death and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for people who give thought,
who reflect.
who reflect.
إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون.
Yeah.
And it is also said that النوم أخو الموت. Death is the sibling of, sleep is the sibling of death. So there is an ayah in the sleep. It's a mini death, mini resurrection. And that's why when we wake up in the morning, we say, Alhamdulillah الذي أحيانا بعدما أماتنا وإليه النشور. Alhamdulillah, so praise be to God. الذي أماتنا, how would you say? Like he caused us to die? He gave us death? No, أحيانا بعد أماتنا. He caused us to live after he caused us to die. وإليه النشور, and to him is the gathering, the resurrection,
That's where Hashr comes from.
yes. No, Hashr is the gathering actually, but this is Nushur, coming back, being resurrected.
Okay. That's the prayer of the Prophet, right? It's in the hadith actually.
Yes, in the morning and before sleeping. Allahumma bismika, what was it? Amutu wa ahya. Oh God, in your name I die, and in your name I live. because now it's a mini death and we may not wake up. Like we can't make ourselves wake up. So by God's permission, we wake up in the morning, as we are told in the ayah, in ayah 42 of Surah Al-Zumar, like God takes the souls when it's the soul of the dead while they are asleep, and those who are not, it's not the time for death, then they are left until their appointed time.
Yeah.
So sleep is really a miracle. We are totally out of control, and then suddenly we wake up. Subhanallah. It is really a miracle, something to really reflect on and stay with, and it's made so with ease that we take it for granted. But Imam Nursi, in many different risala, the ease is an indication, it's an ayah for power, all-encompassing absolute power. Of course, there is also Rahma and Hikmah and lots of other names as well. But the fact that it's happening so smoothly, we take it for granted that it's happening naturally. What does it mean naturally? It means nothing. One day we may not wake up. And of course, if we feel fear, it means we are not connected to the source of our life. That's why I say, in your name I die, and I live. It's very beautiful. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ's dua are all, they show us the cues for how to reflect. If I live in the name of God, then I die in the name of God. Then there is nothing to fear. It's just the opposite. If there is no God, there is everything to fear. But if there is God, then Alhamdulillah. Even if tomorrow the sun is not there, it's okay, because the one who creates the sun and sends and protect life with it and sustains life by means of the sun and other creation, is there. As long as he is there, there is no need to worry about anything, because whatever he is giving us through the sun, he will give it to us through something else. Life ended in this world. It's not the end. It's just a new world, a new creation. خلق جديد. So we need to learn to live in his name, inshallah.
I had never thought of sleep as something to reflect on in this particular way. Obviously we continually read of sleep as a bounty or a blessing for us, for rest and whatever else. But I don't think I ever thought about, okay, we do think about this idea that I go to sleep and I may never wake up, but to kind of make it a point of tafakkur or contemplation every night as I go to bed, and I confirm to myself that it is my creator, the source of my existence, who will aid me or who will create my sleep. And then if he wills, I will wake up. but I can't guarantee that I will wake up the next day. So to go to sleep with that awareness, and then to wake up with that gratitude, because once I'm sleeping, I can't control what's going on. So I was granted another day of life. And I feel like that would just change my entire day. So, inshallah, we can also kind of reflect on this too. Thank you, Dr. Yamina. If anyone would like to share anything anytime, you can unmute or raise your hand, of course.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, Saira here. Assalamu alaikum Dr. Yamina, all sisters.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for the company and really eye-opening way of looking at resurrection as like a continuous fail amal. And I was thinking today by looking at the numbers of people who are alive or who have been martyred, animals, any destruction anywhere, how long it takes for a baby to be carried, how many 9 months have been with God's will and with the injustice on earth forsaken to, as we call, untimely deaths. That had there been the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the will, what we call free will of humans to choose, if they are humans indeed, to not engage in destruction or bringing upon death of people, animals, and plants and poisoning the earth. All of this work that females are bid to do to carry a baby, the plants, the animals, and the women, would not be wasted. But then I look at the other side and I say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you tell me that everything happens with your will and that you give life and you give death and you bring people to happiness or bring them laughter to them and bring sadness to them. So this reality that I'm witnessing from afar, its gravity is very heart crushing for me. But from within that khird or wisdom of yours, I am also witnessing that despite what seemingly looks like all is lost for Gaza, this level of destruction and the way people who are survived as yet, their family members who are still alive in gruesome situations, they are witnessing even more deaths and more horror and more pain and more suffering. Whereas many times in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the sequel of all of this is justice will be done, your body will be repaired with the soul, and you will all come in front of God, and everybody will not have an atom's worth of wrong done to them. If you earned good, you will earn good. If you earned evil, you will get evil in return. Of course, heaven and hell is there. So perhaps resurrection is part of, dying is part of living. I don't know if you can say something to that. That I think being in that barzakh and in the grave, depending upon how defenseless and how innocent these lives are, they are already in heavens. Their hisab, according to Quran, we already know. Allah knows best. Allah's mercy and their eternal place. But from the looks of it, those who are not at fault and they are on haq, they are already eternally living in peace. It's we who are witnessing, who have multiple levels of deaths, our own mortality that will come suddenly, and the injustice based deaths and destruction that we are witnessing, its heaviness, and the fear of not knowing what Allah Ta'ala of course, we know that Allah will not shortchange us, na'udhu, but that still the fear of our own status in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes, in this context, that we are dying every day and we have been resurrected every day, it makes it even more of a logical reason to be mindful of our each and every moment and not be life destructive to ourselves and to others, all creation, and still be able to hold accountable when we can those who are destroying, or are destructive, and ourselves, hold ourselves to a higher standard that we don't want to play God, and we don't ever want as believers to be unjust. And hence our living and our dying and our resurrection and our eternal living is a sequence that we have indeed to witness. There is no escape from any stage of it. May we all end up in the good. Khatma bil khair, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Syra. Did you want to share anything, Dr. Yamina?
Not particularly. If anyone has something to say, please go ahead. Thank you, Syra, for sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Yamina. Jazakallah khair.
Okay. And just as a reminder, guys, so the text opens up the more we engage with it. So the more questions we ask of the text, the more it's gonna open up for us. Yes, Naima, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Sorry, I had to run upstairs really quickly. So I'm sorry if I'm out of breath. So there's two things that came to my mind about this resurrection that we are constantly living. And it just made me reflect on how disillusioned we are and distracted, to not be able to pause and reflect on how much of a gift it is to rest and to wake up, with the help of Allah. Like, those are daily resurrections. Like, and one of the things that also made me reflect a little bit more too was Sana sharing about what's happening in Gaza. And so many people each day rest and do not wake up. And the images that are coming out of this disastrous state just can't take me away from thinking about what it will be like on the day of resurrection. The chaos, the turmoil, the running, like that imagery. And I feel like we're seeing, it's not the same, right? Like, it's not the same. Like what their experience and the day of resurrection, it's likely incomparable. And so it just makes me reflect on, wow, like we will be resurrected and there will be like destruction and things among us like happening, just extreme chaos. And I can't help but ask Allah to just have favor over me, like protect me, don't let me forget, like these little mini resurrections. Don't let me forget that there is a day that is more catastrophic than the ones that we have seen, the ones that we are seeing. And in it, there are, there's a lot of wisdom in it. There's a lot of horror in it. And then there's a lot of moments to remember. Our inevitable return. And so I just am constantly brought to pause. And this reading for today just makes me shudder a little bit inside. I feel a little emotional about it. Just like it makes you shudder inside and just think about how merciful Allah is and how we take for granted the gift in our existence and our, our temporary moments of stability, right? Like we take for granted security. We take for granted who that comes from. We take for granted tomorrow, yesterday, right now. We take for granted so many things. And this just is a reminder for us to slow down. Like, where are we going? Like that's something that I constantly, when I read that in the Quran, Allah says, like, where do you think you're going? Like, hello, like, wake up. And then it makes me think about the internal, our internal state of being. And if I look at the images that are happening in Gaza, some of us, our internal state looks like that. Like our internal state of like destruction, because we just do not take the time to really reflect and ponder and recognize who Allah is, and how we even come to be. And I was reflecting on Surah Akhlaq this week, and when Allah speaks about us being like this leech-like clot that requires him to be able to subsist, like clinging, right? I was listening to a lecture, you're clinging onto a uterine wall, and you need everything to be able to subsist and be born. And that's like our spiritual state of being as well. We are clinging to Allah. In our moments of sleep, we rely on him in order for us to wake up. We rely on him for everything, and we think that we're self-subsisting. I just think, even to myself, how arrogant to think that I'm self-subsisting in any way. So I guess this is just a reflection that I have, and it just brings me to just wanting to grow in nearness to Allah and surrender. And I know that we often say surrender is hard, but when you think deeply, is it really that hard? When we witness what's around us, is it really that hard to surrender? And so I just end with that.
Yes and no. If we choose to, yes. If we don't make an effort, no, it seems hard. But the choice is not one single time. It needs to be, just like we are given life again and again, the choice needs to be renewed again and again until it becomes easier and easier and easier, and surrendering will be our state of being, inshallah. Were you talking about Surah Abasa, Naima?
No, I was talking about Surah Akhlaq, but then I think we were talking about Surah Abasa earlier this week. Shall I talk about that? Or
Because in Surah Abasa there is that, you know, when it says يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه, that's also very powerful and something to pause and like you want to prepare for a day like this, where we're told a day where a man will run away from his own brother and his mother and father, وصاحبته وبنيه, and his spouse and his children. And we are told on that day, everyone will be like absorbed or busy in their own, with their own concerns, like they won't have time for the closest people to them. But afterwards we are told وجوه يومئذ مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة. So some faces will, on that day, some faces will be bright with happiness and they will be laughing and rejoicing at the good news. And other faces will be covered with dust, and they will be darkness. They will be like covered with darkness, like we say a dark face, you know. So it means there will be people in that seeming chaos. Some people will be happy and some will not. So Allah is not telling us this to scare us. He's telling us this is what's awaiting you. So you'd better get ready now. Prepare yourself. It's out of rahmah that we are told what will happen. And we can confirm it in times of hardship. Like right now, what's going on? It involves the whole globe, the whole humanity. Something awful is happening, and we're just watching. And people who can do something are not doing anything, and those who have the power are the ones who are actually perpetrating this acts. So what do we do? Do we hold on to that urwatul wuthqa, that trustworthy, how would you say, urwa, like handle? Do we trust in God regardless of what's going, or do we lose hope? If we're losing hope, it means we have not confirmed that my life is not mine, that this world is not permanent, that whatever is going on would be unbearable if the world was permanent. But this is passing, and it's happening. It's not happening without divine knowledge or divine control. And so we stop giving too much power to the oppressors. And when we stop fearing the oppressors. Because remember, we are here on earth to prepare for eternal life. And things like this remind us, because we keep forgetting, as if we are here to stay here. And all our efforts is spent in building this life. When this life is actually, there is nowhere to build on it, because it's always passing. As he's saying in the first paragraph, in each many different things, in the night and day, in the winter and spring, like the seasons, in the skies, even in the bodies which we change through our lifetime. We keep changing. How can we still be deluded, as we are told in the Quran? How can you still be deluded? And it's talking about people who do not deny. It says, who creates the heaven and the earth? To whom belongs the malakut of everything? They say God. And then he says, then how are you so deluded? If you know all this, how come you're still living your life as though there is no akhirah? As though you are going to live forever in sleep, which resembles death. It's not like we have no sense. We have a sense.
Casual one is saying that
Yes, please go ahead.
That might have been a mistake, I think. Elifabla, did you want to say something?
no, I think I did it by mistake. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And if you remember in Surah Al-Baqarah, we are taught this is a passage that people usually always refer to, like because we keep forgetting. It seems like we expect paradise on this earth. That expectation, that desire is a sign, as was mentioned in the very beginning, is a messenger for akhirah and for what our true destination, paradise. That's what we all long for. But in this life, we are here to prepare. How to prepare? To grow our potential, to become the divine addressee, the addressee of God, the Khalifa on earth, to grow the potential that we are given to be this mirror to the beautiful names of God. So what was it? In Surah Al-Baqarah, we are told, we will certainly test you with fear and hunger. من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال, and نقص, decrease in property, in wealth and property, and lives, والأنفس والثمرات, and crops and fruits and results. وبشر الصابرين, and give good news to those who are patient. But here, sabr is more than patience. It's steadfastness. It's, let's say, patience, steadfastness. Those الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Those when calamity or hardship befalls them, they say, truly we belong to God, and truly to Him we are returning. Can you see the context of this? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Usually we forget the context. عليهم صلوات من ربهم. I always like this, you see, عليهم صلوات من ربهم. We say for the Prophet, عليه الصلاة والسلام, or any Prophet, عليه السلام. And usually people, if someone makes a mistake and say عليه الصلاة والسلام for another Prophet, I've seen this, someone made a mistake and everyone was, no, you can't say that. But Allah is saying عليهم الصلوات for the believers who have these characteristics. عليهم صلوات من ربهم. So I don't know how to translate this. Usually the salawat is translated as blessings on them. But it's a special, doesn't say just blessings, it says. So upon them is salawat, blessings or grace or whatever, however you translate it, are from their Rabb. وَرَحْمَةٌ, and rahmah is also on them from their Rabb. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. Those are the rightly guided. So this speaks to us in these conditions where, because things won't always be the way we want. There will be illness, there will be all kinds of hardships, calamities, earthquakes, wars, all kinds, oppression. And these people, they don't lose hope. They know that everything is under control. Whoever life belongs to him, therefore everything belongs to him. Truly, we belong to God, and truly, to him we are returning. And these are the rightly guided people. And Allah's rahmah and his salawat are upon them. So inshallah, we need to live with Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We do belong to him now. If I belong to him, then everyone else belongs to him. If we belong to him, then I don't get to have the last word on everything. I have the last word only to the extent that Allah permits it. We didn't get the last word on how we look like, in which geography we were born, in which family we were born. And so we need to understand and surrender to this reality. Because otherwise our arrogance is based on delusion. In Arabic, gharur is ghurur. The word arrogance is already imbued with the meaning of delusion. So may Allah make us of those who surrender, so we are truly Muslim, who are on a path of Islam, of surrendering to the reality, not surrendering to. We are surrendering to the reality that everything is under our Rabb's, our Maker's control. And so we follow his will, inshallah. When we go out of that path, we are being deluded, and we know immediately, because when we are out of that path, there is no peace. We become either the oppressors or oppressed, but we become the victim of the oppressed, and the oppressor, we will see him or them, we see the oppressors as mighty, as if they have might. And that's what makes, if everyone believes that the oppressors are mighty, then their strength will leave them. Even that belief is disempowering. Can you imagine someone who believes in God and has no strength, cannot stand in the name of God? That's what we stand in during the Salat. Allahu Akbar, we say. Allahu Akbar means only Allah is Akbar, nothing else. Inshallah. May Allah make us of those who are surrenderers, Muslimin.
I mean, Dr. Yamina, what would you, to kind of piggyback off of that, say as a heart work exercise that might come to you about what we discussed?
You mean in this passage? It could be going to sleep, waking up in the morning, going to sleep consciously, waking up with hamd, going to sleep in a state of surrender and prayer. And when we are made to wake up, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyan ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. So each waking up, it's a gift from God, a new day. And so we treasure that day. Everything is a ni'mah, a blessing. And at the same time, we witness the resurrection, a mini resurrection.
And maybe just to tie into that, what Naima was sharing, since we will be focusing on the week, and since tonight is, Alhamdulillah, a reminder of the journey. Mhm. The journey to transcend just the physical of what we see, and really journey to the Eternal One, who is present and who is speaking through the creation, through our desires and our hopes. And so maybe also on that connection that Naima was sharing of the world affair, since we intend to go to sleep while being made aware that sleep is totally out of my control, and how that was part of his wisdom, that he engineered the human being that way. And in the ayah that we covered today, it says, this is indeed a sign. This is an ayah. This is something that I made deliberately for you to think about. You go to sleep. Wait. He says, Allah takes the soul when you go to sleep. You have absolutely no control over that. As a reminder of how to live. And so when we're given life back, inshallah, in the morning, realize that it's an opportunity to use that quote unquote time, the world clock, wisely, because it's just a matter of time, like Naima was saying, since we are witnessing total destruction and chaos as another sign that we need to be very clear that this world is not stable, that is deluded. Just because my little home and my little street seems stable, I'm made to see the whole earth is shaking very regularly at this point. And now we're seeing not only constant shaking of the earth and things that seem stable completely turn to rubble, but we're seeing lives in total chaos, naqs, So may we use not only the sleep and the waking, but renew the intention, like Dr. Yamina used to say. Inshallah, will write it on somewhere I can see it, to renew our daily intention to live in awe of the gifts that we're given, to be in total gratitude of the quote unquote mundane gifts that are often taken for granted as a means to prepare for that day, because we're studying resurrection as a means to prepare, like Dr. Yamina said. We need to prepare for that day. And what better way to prepare than to fall to our knees in total awe of the gifts and in total repentance of our absolute ghurur, delusion that things are stable and water just comes out the faucet and groceries just come from the store and bread just comes in a bag. Now that we see people grinding up rabbit food to make something to eat, may we be in constant awe of the sustainer who provides and in constant repentance for taking that for granted, and intend to live with such deep gratitude and forgiveness as a way to prepare for a day that is absolutely chaotic, except for those who find stability and safety with this maker. Inshallah. Jazakumullah kullu khair, Nurbanu and Yamina.
Amin, amin. Thank you, Sarah. That was very nice. Because we may think, what shall I do now? If there is something special to do, we will be inspired, but we will only get the inspiration if we are, as you described it beautifully, in that state of gratitude and awe as much as we can. And when we forget, istighfar and asking for forgiveness, inshallah.
And just because, the world clock was really a beautiful analogy. The earth never stops turning. And we take that for granted because it's not something that we see like we do see on a clock, but we are forced by his beautiful love to pause 5 times a day and come back to a place of centrality to witness specific changes of the earth, quote unquote time, the earth's clock. So radical changes from night to day or from early afternoon to late afternoon, which are visible on the earth's clock. May we really feel how delicate it is that time is ticking and time is precious. And at the same time, the one turning the earth is the one that we are to turn to in order to find safety. So there's good news that we're not subject to destruction. The earth is, and the mountains are, but the human being, alhamdulillah, through this word, through the 29th word we're studying, that who we really are is not subject to destruction at all. It's very safe. The soul is immortal, and it's safe only when connected to this one that we're forced to pause and turn to minimally 5 times a day. Bismillah.
Jazakallah, Sarah and Dr. Amina and everyone who shared. It's 9:21. I kind of want to stop here. Obviously there's 2 other points in the 4th point that I kind of want to pick apart next week. So inshallah we'll read the last 2 paragraphs again, especially because he talks about the human being being like a species, which we've talked about before, and what that means for his exact resurrection. So we can pick up there for next week, and we already have our heart work, so inshallah we can reflect on our going to sleep and waking up in the upcoming week, and make that a point of awe and gratitude. And next week you guys can share any reflections that you have, inshallah. Again, please have a blessed night of Miraj. Keep us all in your prayers. May this be very, very fruitful for everyone. And inshallah we can finish here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلوات.